welcome. I'm trying to clean my glasses. Hi everyone. I want to make sure you guys can hear me before we get started. So if you can hear me, if you can see me, type one if you can hear me, and and two if you can see me, and one and two if you can hear me and see me. Because I want to make sure. I think my mic settings is good, but I want to make sure everybody can. Oh no, you can't. Okay. Now you should be able to hear me, hopefully. So type one if you can hear me, two if you can see me, and then one and two if you can hear me and see me. Um, and today, of course, we have a very special guest. Okay, Sadiqa, I see. Thank you. Faith says yes. Okay, perfect. So everybody can hear me and see me. And then we're gonna loop in Angela, our special guest today, and we're gonna do the same thing for her. I had a little mishap, so now I just like to, double check and confirm. So let me loop in Angela and okay, I see more ones and two. Perfect. Hey, Angela.
Hello. I hope everybody can hear and see me too.
Let me make sure everybody can hear you and see you before we get. So everybody confirm. One, if you can hear Angela. Two, if you can see her. One and two, if you can hear and see her. So, Angela, can you please say something?
Something. Hello.
I've had an issue before where I didn't do this check, and then I thought everybody heard me, and nobody did, and then it was like a big issue. So, I always do this now.
It's smart. It's smart too.
Okay, I see some more ones and twos. I'm assuming it's because you're referring to Angela and not me. Okay.
Cool.
Okay,
Very
perfect.
cool.
So we're good to go. Hey, everybody. As promised, I have our special guest, Miss Angela Roberts, with us here today. And we have so much to talk um, why the job application is about you. And most of the time when I say that to people, they're like, what? What do you mean? It should, it's about me and what I've done. But you're here to get us straight, right?
Well, I hope so. But people think I'm a smarty pants whenever I say it. But I'm glad that you kind of say the same thing because I think job seekers do think the job application is all
They
about them.
do. They do. I find that most of them do. Um, but before we get started and diving in, for those of you who don't know, and I'll let you give your own little, you know, better version of intro than I can. But she's been in the recruiting industry, specifically in our space, for decades, right?
Since 2008.
2008, and you have your own recruiting company now,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a whole team of recruiters. And so you know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you're talking about because you've been doing this for a while and this is your thing.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
for those of you who don't believe me, now you hear it straight from the horse's mouth. And we're gonna get all into, and people, please feel free to drop questions too. I forgot to add that. Drop questions,
Mm-hmm.
um, because we'll take your questions too. So, Angela, introduce yourself. Let everybody know about your wonderful, wonderful background.
Well, I appreciate that. You pretty much already said it. I mean, I'm ex-IBM. Have like my dad would call me an overeducated idiot, lots of degrees, and went into the IT field and managed teams at an executive level up to 17,000 people globally. And someone that I was very close to, he and I decided that it was time to start something of our own, quit working for somebody else. And I'm super excited about an upcoming webinar that you're going to be doing about business women kind of breaking in because it was hard. But we started this company because I had been hiring high performing people for years and decided that maybe we should hire high performing people in this industry. My business partner had worked in this industry for years and knew this industry inside and out. And so we just combined resources and opened up our doors. And we started the business in 2008, officially opened up in 2009. And we've been recruiting ever since, specifically only in clinical research. Even though I came from IT, and we predominantly focus on the placement of clinical research associates. So yeah, so there you have it.
Awesome. Awesome. So, we already talked about it a little bit. A lot of people don't know that the process isn't about them. So, just kind of give everybody like a high level overview summary of like what this topic is even about. Because some people, they probably read it and were like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, they might think that we're being a bit snotty, aren't we? So I think the biggest thing is, one of the number one complaints that we hear from candidates and good candidates are that they get ghosted. I mean, they put their applications in and they get completely ghosted by the recruiters or the hiring teams. And so when you start looking at the reasons why, one of the reasons why I truly believe that's to be the case is because job applications in general, people spend so much time putting together their resume and their credentials and making it real beautiful, and maybe sometimes they craft a cover letter, and we can talk about that for days, but and then they go and apply and then no one says anything. And the problem, I think, a lot of times is because the job applicants act like it's about them. And whenever we have anyone apply to any of our open positions, or if I have someone apply to an internal position, we always do a lot of pre-qualification through email. And we always ask, why are you interested? And I even did a poll on this whenever you and I first started talking about doing this webinar. And the poll was, if someone asks you, why are you applying for this job? What are you going to tell them? And there were like 4 or 5 questions. And then I gave them an opportunity to do an other and then give me a real good example. And then the best example won a coaching lesson from me for free. And, the responses were interesting, like A, I need a job, duh. B, I like to travel. C, I like to work from home. Or, there was like this whole litany of things, but all of the answers, all of them were about the job seeker. All of them. And you can tell me what you think is a problem with that, right? I mean, if you're in a managerial role, what would you see as a problem with that answer if you're looking at all these applicants and they're all like, well, I want to work from home, or I want to do this, or I want to do that? What are your thoughts about that?
It's all self-focused, right? Mm-hmm. It's not talking about the value, the asset, the skills that you bring to the company, which is the whole purpose, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's hiring you because you want to work from home.
Well, that's it, right? And if that's the only reason why you're applying for the job, you are not going to get interviewed. Or if you do get interviewed, it's a fluke. Every hiring manager wants to believe that you have hand selected their position for a particular reason.
Yeah.
I want to work for this company because the mission, the product, the studies that you're doing. Yeah. There has to be something about the team or the project that resonated with you. You need to articulate that. You've got to explain to that hiring team why you applied as it relates to the company. Yeah. The company didn't post that position because you need a job. The company posted a position because they have a need, and you're now competing. So why not explain to them why you applied to the position as it relates to fitting that need? That's going to be what gets you an inroad.
Yeah, exactly. You said it so beautifully. So beautifully. I have a couple questions that have come in, so do you want to take those or keep going?
Well, we can take them if they're not going to like mess the pace up.
No, they're not. So Jesse's great. He's awesome. He's amazing. He's going to land his CRA role very soon. Jesse asks, what sets apart or captures your attention in a candidate that you think is ready for the CRA role versus one you think needs a bit more experience or time?
Oh, what a great question. I like to say it depends, but specifically, I look at the total picture. We're in the process now of revamping an article series that we have on resumes and writing an effective resume versus just a well-written or pretty one, because there's a big difference. But what I'm looking for whenever I'm looking at a CRA at any level is the stick-to-itiveness that they have. If you're jumping, and you're trying to like pave your way because let me try this. No, let me try this. Or, it's about the story. I talk to people about the story all the time. I want to read a resume like I read a novel. I want to look at your resume and I want to see what your story is. What have you done specifically to get you to where you want to go? And I need to see where you want to go in your resume, and it needs to tell me, and it needs to speak that to me. And if it doesn't, then I'm probably going to move on to the next level. Volunteer work, internships, your coursework, especially as a youngin, as an entry level person, what are you doing to get you to that end goal? You are doing, not that you're expecting a company to feed you. Because that was an issue that I had whenever I was with IBM. I'd be like, why would I hire you? Tell me why you want me to hire you. Because you'll pay for my master's degree. No, no, that's not the right answer. What are you doing? If this is important to you, you're getting that certification, you're getting that education,
Yeah.
you're going to that fast track, you're doing this, that, or the other. A resume should be able to articulate that goal, that passion, that story that would set you apart from just a list of things that you've done that doesn't tell me anything really long term. I
Right.
don't know if that answers your question, but maybe.
Well, Jesse, if you have a follow-up or you didn't understand, please let us know. Drop that in the comments. But one question I do have for you, for the people that are listening, the stick-to-itness. Explain to us what you mean when you say the stick-to-itness.
It's really hard, I think, especially if you're really, really smart. You get into a job and you get bored, or you get into a job and you think, it takes a minute to learn and become a master in the role that you take on.
Yeah.
And whenever I talk about stick-to-itiveness, what I'm talking about is when you make a commitment to a company or an organization or a volunteer project, you go into that commitment all in, and you stick to it. If you go in and go, didn't like the manager, or I didn't like this, or I didn't like that, and then you bail after a couple of 3 months, you're not building your character. You're not in building your professionalism. You're not building your capability to work through blockers or issues in the workplace, or be able to establish long-term goals that you can stick to. And it's a clear indication to me that you don't have a goal. And setting goals is primary. If you've set goals and there's an opportunity that is offered to you and it doesn't help you get there, you won't take it to begin with. So what that tells me is if you do take an opportunity and you're only in it for 2, 3, 4 months, then either A, you don't have a good goal, or B, you just can't stick to it. And it's important that you figure out what your long-term goals are and you choose the positions that will help get you there. And I get it. We all have mortgage payments to make, and you might have to take temporary jobs or whatever, but you still need to be able to show a focus and a trajectory, especially whenever it comes to a professional position like a CRA position.
I agree 100%. And one thing I will add, because there's always those people that are listening and they just take it the advice a little too far. There are some times where you might get into a role and it's not, I've had people, it's not what they thought it would be, or it's like a really toxic, unhealthy environment type of, like, you're not talking about those.
No, I'm not. No. And what I'm looking for whenever I'm looking at a candidate is I'm looking at a trend. There are those situations. And audience, I'll tell you, there's a lot of sleazy recruiters out there, and they're going to misinform you. They're going to tell you there's zero travel when it's 70% travel. They're going to tell you full-time 40 hours a week when it's 80 hours a week. They're going to tell you whatever they can tell you to get it placed. I get it. So you get into the job and you think, man, I have been sold a bill of goods. I totally get that too. But these are situations that are one-offs. Whenever we're interviewing or we're assessing individuals to represent, we're looking at their decision-making qualities. Is why did you leave Icon, Parkdale, PPD, Worldwide Clinical, whoever? And then why did you leave the one before? And why did you leave the one before? Because we're looking at patterns. We want to know where your thought process is and what's led you to make those decisions, so that we can understand are you making poor decisions? Are you jumping when it gets tough? Are you not assessing it properly? Where are you? It could be a sign of maturity. It could be the sign that maybe that company really was terrible.
Yeah.
It could be a whole host of things. But what you need to really establish to begin with is a goal, because whenever you have professional goals, you're going to make better decisions.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that goals is something that I work on
Mhm.
with my clients in the beginning. Because if you don't know where you're going, like, how are you supposed to map out,
Any road will take you there.
right? Right? Okay, we have some more questions, several questions. The next one is from Joni. So, what tips do you have for someone who is trying to pivot into a different aspect of clinical research? So, CRC to CRA or startup, for instance?
Hmm. That's a really tough one. I don't work with as many folks that move from CRC to CRA. Back in the day, it was a lot easier to break into that, wasn't it?
Mm,
Now it's a lot harder. I
it is.
guess, yeah, I guess my number one thing would be network. You've got CRAs coming to the site, talk to them, and put yourself out there, not just with your CRAs, but we talk about networking all the time. But put yourself out there on LinkedIn professionally and in a professional way. I've got a gal that follows me now. She's got all these little emoticons behind her name and she does all these little silly comments and stuff. And I'm like, that stuff follows you forever.
Yeah.
You have to represent yourself as a professional in all instances. And you have to be very clear again about what it is that you're looking for and then network accordingly. There are inroads everywhere, and networking is going to get you a job offer for a job that isn't even posted.
Yep, I say that all the time, people. I say that all the time. That's why you need a system that will
Mhm.
attract opportunities to you, right?
Yeah,
LinkedIn, I'm streaming on YouTube too. I don't know about you. Are you? Or are you just on LinkedIn?
just on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, people that are on YouTube or Facebook that don't have a LinkedIn profile, get one today.
And be smart about it. I
Smart.
mean, you know how many people I get 20, 30 invitations a day. I accept maybe three or four of them.
Exactly. Me too. Yeah.
And it isn't because these folks aren't in the industry. It's because it's first name, last initial, no picture, profile is horrible, abbreviated, not linked to companies or has almost nothing. I'm sorry, no. And I don't accept you into the group either. I'm sorry. If you're serious about this industry, put a professional profile out
Picture
there.
up. Yes. I say that all the time. Especially, and I get it, especially for people who maybe their last job search was like, we really don't even have to go back that far. Like even 5 years ago, the industry was different, right? In terms, and not even just our industry, but job searching in general. LinkedIn is like kind of taking over the whole job search industry, right? So
Hmm.
you don't have a LinkedIn profile and then you do, but you don't have a picture, like you said, you don't have the like all those things are just red flags, right?
Hmm.
And we're gonna get into the fake CRAs.
Yeah.
I
What
think
makes an honest CRA
I
look
don't remember
fraudulent or
what day it is.
suspicious?
Yeah, I don't remember what week it is, but stay tuned for that episode. But then you can start falling into that fraudulent category, even if you're
Mhm.
amazing, right?
That's exactly right. Absolutely, I'm sure out of the people that I have declined invitations from today, some of them might walk on water.
Might be amazing, right? But I tell people all the time, it's you have to create that brand, know
Mhm.
how to market the brand. And it goes back to what you said on the resume, telling a story. Everything about you, everything that you do should represent that story, not just your resume.
I
Um,
agree.
so for
Well, because you're competing with people that are representing themselves very well that are fraudulent. I mean, you're competing with individuals who've been in this industry for a long time that have a very buttoned up brand. You're competing with people that have a buttoned up brand and are fraudulent. You're competing with a lot of different things. So you've got to make sure that your brand isn't what's holding you back because it's silly if that's the case. Especially if you do walk on water. I want to talk to you if you walk on water, but you have to show that to me in your LinkedIn profile.
yes, and I say that Joni specifically, since this is your question, I say that to coordinators all the time because that's like the perfect role to step into the CRA space. But a lot
Hmm.
of times the branding isn't there and the marketing is like non-existent.
I agree.
Um,
Yeah.
and a lot of times nowadays recruiters are searching for the entry level candidates versus scrolling through the applicants.
That's absolutely true. Or going to their networks. When we recruit with our first levels and with people in our database that we've already qualified first. We also post on our website and we will send out email broadcasts, but 9 times out of 10, we place that position out of our network. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go through our qualification process
Right.
and get in our network. Please do. But it's a timing thing, and positions move so quick, especially in today's economy. It's crazy. I mean, we'll get a position in the morning and have it filled by lunch. So
Right.
you have to be ready and right there and participate. It's really important to be able to do that. And that's not to discourage people, it's just to say, button up your profile.
Exactly.
I see a lot more people that have really, really bad profiles than not. And it just makes me wonder, I mean, how serious are you whenever you're applying for a cajillion positions and your profile is next to nothing?
Yeah, and then when I see that, it actually makes me sad because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people just flat out don't know, Angela. They don't
Maybe.
know, and it's like they don't teach this in school, right? They don't
Mm-hmm.
have that career development piece. And then for people that are behind, having LinkedIn as a part of their job search is like, what? Like, why should I talk to some
Yeah.
people? They're like, why shouldn't it just be about my education and my experience? I don't make the rules.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because I have over 700 applicants for every open position that I get.
Mm,
So whenever I'm looking at this pile of applications, I want to be able to quickly see who looks buttoned up, and not just on LinkedIn, but digital footprint, period. Right. So, because if you're a coordinator, your name's going to be on studies that you've coordinated, and you're going to be out there on clinicaltrials.gov. You're going
yeah.
to have all this entity, right? And if you have some type of a degree that's kind of in the field, you're going to be cited in different publications and that type of thing. That's what I'm looking for. And those are the individuals I'm going to speak with first, rather than those individuals that have zero brand, zero footprint.
I say it all the time. Hopefully, they just heard you say it. And again, like you reemphasize, it's not to discourage people in any way, shape, or form. It's
Mm-hmm.
really to encourage, because when you think about it, it's like, oh, all I really need to do is work on my brand, start marketing. Like, it can become simple, y'all. It can become fun. It can become simple. It can become easy if you make it fun, simple, and easy. I always say that it doesn't have to be hard. And most people, I feel like, are making it harder on themselves by just only applying and hoping and wishing.
I agree. I absolutely agree. LinkedIn is driven by search engine optimization, just like websites are. And all it would take is, and sign up with Jasmine for a coaching class. She can help you understand how to optimize your LinkedIn profile so you get found. That's key. And then once someone finds you, what are they looking at? Make sure that what they're looking at is getting them, your tagline. You're all misspelling. How many people misspell the word freaking research?
I didn't
People
know that was a thing.
on their LinkedIn profile.
I didn't know that. I didn't know there was a lot of people.
Oh my gosh. Or they misspell Parkcell, or they misspell inventive, or they misspell or whatever. I mean, and then of course they're not connect. I mean, again, we're not having the discussion yet about what makes an honest CRA look fraudulent, but these are things that are very questionable to me. Either you're very careless or you're fraudulent. One of the two. I got 700 applicants.
Or, and I'll throw this out there, they just don't know how serious LinkedIn is.
Yes,
I get
maybe.
so many people, they just think it's just like a Facebook profile. So they don't think it's that serious. But I tell people all the time, like, LinkedIn at this point is a part of your job search, whether you have it or not. So if you
Right.
don't have it, you're absent. Basically, you're absent from the classroom. But people are still going to be expecting it, right? Some recruiters, they immediately go to your LinkedIn profile.
We do. We do.
And I say that, and people are like, why? What? It doesn't make sense. But you hear it, y'all. So for Joni's question, LinkedIn is one of the things, and not just LinkedIn, but like your online brand and your offline brand. And then, like you said, how you market yourself.
Yeah. Participation in and I'm not talking about liking little kitten photos and stuff like that. I'm talking about genuine participation in real events and scenarios within the LinkedIn community to where you can get found by individuals who take it seriously. You have to take it seriously it's like a match energy with energy thing. You
Exactly.
have to take it seriously if you want to be taken seriously, and LinkedIn is the way to go. I will tell you this, two things that I think are really important. There was a recent publication just put out that says that a recruiter spends 7 seconds on your resume. 7 seconds. And that doesn't, I'm not telling you that to make it all pretty and graphics with like fireworks and crap that goes off, but 7 seconds. So you need to make sure that you make your resume stand out. But the second thing that I will tell you is that most recruiters use LinkedIn as their database. Now, we have a separate database and we use LinkedIn as a tool, but most recruiters use LinkedIn as their CRM, their customer relationship management system, their applicant tracking system, whatever you want to call it. If you are not large and in charge on your LinkedIn, I'm sorry, folks, you're not going to get found. It's not going to happen.
I'm so glad you said that. And for those who don't know, LinkedIn also has like a recruiter version or account, or I don't know.
I have Sales Navigator. My team has Sales Navigator. It's kind of a step up from the recruiter or whatever. But yeah.
You guys have a different view than us regular people, right?
Yeah. Well, and then we add other tools onto it as well that does advanced searches and contact methodologies or whatever. But yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is our core, and it connects to our applicant tracking system. So while we have the history in our applicant tracking system of you and your LinkedIn's and your resumes and all of our correspondence with you and all of that, the LinkedIn tracks to it. So whenever you change jobs, it flags, hey, she left such and such and she's moved to here. I get that notification every day. And it's important if you're networking. You know, it's very important that you have an updated profile so that you can be found.
Y'all heard it. Update the profiles. Okay, I'm moving. So the question. So Glenda said, how do you reflect that in your resume and cover letter? She probably said that a while back. I don't remember. Glenda, can you tell us what, give us a little bit more information? Let me see. I think
I'm looking through.
Yeah, I don't think she gave us clarification, and I don't remember what topic we were on. So Glenda, can you
we do have a lot of questions out here.
question is referencing, and then while she's doing that, we're going to move on to Manisha, which Glenda says she has the same problem. She has the same challenges that Manisha is saying. So I've applied to multiple positions in an organization, and my resume is not getting picked up despite checking on JobScan and etc. What do you suggest could be the issue? What else do I need to get into a Canadian system?
So I'm not sure, Manisha, if you mean into one organization or if you're meaning across the border or across all of them. But I will tell you this, if you mean one organization and you've applied to multiple positions in one organization, that's a problem. It's a huge problem. Because, and we get it, we'll have a candidate that will have like 12 open positions on our website and they'll apply to all 12 of them.
And tell everybody why that is a problem.
Because it shows me that you're desperate. And anytime, I mean, if any of you women out there read Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, you kind of get the whole rubber band man approach to where whenever you're like chasing somebody, they're running from you. But if you kind of stand still, they'll stand still. And if you walk the other direction, they'll follow you. It's a very similar premise in human nature in general. People that reek of desperation, and I'm not saying, Manisha, you do, but if you're applying to a lot of positions within one organization, that might be sending a signal that, oh my gosh, I'm just desperate to get into the blah, blah, blah. And I actually wrote an article about that. I can probably find it and ping it to the audience, but why it's a really big problem. Because when you're in the system, when you're in IQVIA, PPD system, Parexel system, whatever, they know you're there. They use those systems just like we do. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't network with the hiring teams and get to know the managers at PPD or IQVIA or whomever, but you've already applied, you're there. Now, if you have a very well crafted cover letter that says, look, I know I don't qualify for the position that I just applied for, but I am desperately in love with your organization and this is why. And then you talk about why you love that company and why you want to be a part of the team. That's going to resonate with somebody. But if all you're doing is just apply, it would look to me, and I will tell you, we won't interview people that just apply to everything. Because again, what's your goal? Because you have to make tactical decisions to get to your goal. And that doesn't mean applying to 12 positions. That means to applying to the one that's going to fit you best.
Yes.
Or if none of them fit you, you submit an application saying, I know this doesn't fit, but let me tell you why I applied. And you're just honest, be transparent, be human. You don't have to put on a face or a shield, just be honest with us, right? Because it makes a huge difference. I see you shaking your head, Miss Jasmine.
Yes, no, you're spot on. And nobody wants, going back to the desperate point, nobody wants somebody that's desperate, whether it's a job seat, a company, or in a relationship or a friendship. Nobody wants that desperate person.
Yeah. Desperate people make desperate decisions. And whenever I hire someone, I want them to stick. And if I worry, and this goes back to the initial question of why are you looking for the job to begin with? Well, if you only wanted the job because you work from home, well, then the next work from home job that you apply for that pays more money, you're going to be out of my company. And I've just spent all this time training you and you're gone. So you got to be more clear as it relates to your goals. And that's the same thing. So Manisha, keep us honest. If it was one organization, that's different. If it's multiple organizations within Canada, might be something else. It could be your brand. It could be the way you're applying. It could be your cover letter. Cover letters are awful. I mean, they're important sometimes depending on the reason why. But I mean, I think people overdo cover letters. It's a different topic, I suppose. But I mean, let us know if we've missed a mark, if it's one organization or multiple. Because if it's one organization, we've answered it. If it's multiple, we should probably do a live so where we can look at your profile and your resume and talk to you about if there's something specific in the way you're presenting yourself, because that would be what I would think.
Yeah.
If you're not getting a response back.
Yeah, I agree. And I like the suggestion of doing a live profile audit. I keep saying I'm gonna do it, and then I don't have the time.
Well, you know what? I'll get you. I'll see if I can get you invited. There's a task force that's invited me to do a live where we do that. It's out of Africa, and they're working with the IAOCR to where they're trying to help define competencies for CRAs and clinical project managers and all of that type of thing. And one of the topics is how do you develop from a CRC to a CRA? And what can you do with your LinkedIn profile specifically to help drive traffic to it? And I'm actually going to be speaking at that because I think it'll be really important to kind of just do a screen share. Here's what my profile looked like before I made the changes. Here's what it looks like now as far as traffic is concerned and that type of thing. There's a lot of technology behind LinkedIn. And being able to phrase things a certain way makes a big difference.
A huge difference. Huge difference. And I get it for the people that aren't like the social media type of people. It is a challenge. And some people have fears. I have clients that have true fears and anxieties about showing up on LinkedIn. But there's ways to work through that, guys. That doesn't mean that you just don't show up. That just means that if you're serious, like Angela's saying, that there's ways around it. I have an anxiety protocol that I use for people. For not even just when it comes to showing up on LinkedIn, but interviews, have, those different challenges. So there's ways around it.
Well, some of this is a blocker issue, right? So we're going to be talking about that, I think, next week. And those are things you have to work through if you're going to be effective in this whole process.
I agree. I agree. And Glenda, she gave us an update. She said, I've reached out to recruiters and they do not respond on LinkedIn. They do not respond back on LinkedIn. And her original question was, where is it? Um, she said, how do you reflect that in your resume and cover letter at first? And then she said,
Mhm.
I've reached out to recruiters and they do not respond back on LinkedIn. So I think
Mhm.
she's talking about, Glenda, correct me if I'm wrong, when we were talking about how you needed to tell the story and stand out and all of that stuff. So it sounds like her original question, how do you reflect what you were saying you needed to do to stand out and, show what you offer to the company? How do you reflect that on your resume and cover letter? Because she's saying that she's reached out to recruiters and they haven't responded back.
Well, there are some really bad recruiters out there. I'll tell you a
That's another
story.
topic.
Yeah, whenever I worked with IBM, I was a senior transformation executive. As I mentioned at the onset, I had over 17,000 people reporting up through my programs globally. And we were running Lean and Six Sigma. Basically, what we were doing is we were parachuting into troubled accounts and we were fixing them. So, and whenever I decided to leave IBM, because at the time I was working 100-hour weeks, the last month that I worked for IBM, I booked 100,000 air miles.
Well,
And so when it came to the decision to leave, I thought, okay, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to start my own business with somebody else, or am I going to like go find another job? And I lived in Atlanta at the time, and I applied to some VP jobs for some IT companies in Atlanta. Senior transformation executive for IBM. Now, I'm not trying to be egotistical here. It sounds very much like I am being, but I'm just saying, I mean, my credentials speak for itself. I mean, I had no job hopping, incredible track record, and applied to all these VP positions for IT companies in Atlanta, where I lived. Crickets.
Mm.
I get it. I get it. There's some really crappy recruiters out there. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I will tell you the only time we don't respond back is if you look fraudulent.
Mm.
Or if we've already downgraded you in our database because we've had to fire you, or because your professionalism is just horrible, or something like that. But we respond to everybody. Every recruiting agency is not like that. Most recruiters, third party recruiters especially, are only in it for what they can get because they're held accountable to the placement. And if you are not meeting the credentials of their current positions, or you don't compete, they're not going to respond to you. And
Mm.
that sucks. It really does, but it's the reality of it. They
Mm.
don't believe in networking. Now, we only place CRAs. So we're going to network with you. Even if you're not ready yet, we're going to accept your invitation. We're going to send you a thank you note. We're going to, let you know we look forward to working with you when we can work with you once you've got 2 to 3 years experience in the industry. But we're an anomaly. Most recruiting agencies are soup to nuts, and they're only going to get into it what they can get out of it, or get out of it what they can get into it, whatever, however you want to say that. And that is the unfortunate tactic of the industry. And I would like to tell you that corporate recruiters within companies like IQVIA, PPD, Parexel, and all that are different, but I will tell you they're not.
Mm.
They're not. They are held accountable for filling requisitions. If you are underqualified and you apply, you are going to get ignored. You have to network. You have to. There's no other option that I can see, unless a fluke happens, the moon and the stars align a certain way, and somebody goes, "Oh, well, she looks really cute," and they talk to you. It is the nature of the business. Unfortunately, Jessica, you're laughing at me, but it's the nature of the business.
It is, and I haven't seen the moon and the stars and all that align, because even the people that don't realize that they're following what we're saying, when I talk to them, they've been networking. Maybe they were networking internally at the company, or they have a profile, a great profile. They didn't use strategy, so to speak, but they set up their profile, or they have something. They might not have strategically done it, and they don't realize that, or they don't realize that they strategically done it. But typically, the people that say it was a fluke, when I talk to them, they had the things that we're talking about in place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate. And one thing that I will add to Glenda's question about she's reached out to recruiters and they don't respond back, drop in the comments what you've been saying, because that's another thing that I find, that sometimes the messages that people are sending out,
Yeah,
they not only don't grab attention, but they push people away and they make you want to like just decline your, invitation to connect and not even respond, right? Sometimes some messages are like some,
Value vomit is what I call it. I agree. It's just like the whole life story of I've been trying, and and I get it. You want to vent. I totally get it.
but that's
But
not the way.
mhm.
Not the way, especially the ones where you get the long ones and then they attach like a resume and a cover letter and all this stuff. And it's like, hold on, just say hey first. I'm just trying to connect.
Thank you for connecting. I will tell you, I get over 500 emails and in-mails a day.
That is
I
crazy.
am not going to read along whatever. I'm not. I'm
You
just
just don't have the time. You don't have
not.
the time.
Yeah.
So people, please think about that too. And Glenda, share with us what you've been saying to recruiters because I'm interested, what that is because that could be the issue too, right? Um,
Could be for sure because I think that outreach is a very important thing. I just completed a course, and you and I talked about this offline not too long ago, where they talked about the person in the pink suit.
yeah,
Whenever you connect with someone, you kind of need to make it about them. You
absolutely.
know, yeah, because you want to open up the conversation. Think about being whenever you connect with someone on LinkedIn. Think about being at a cocktail party. If you go up and you shake someone's hand and you go, "My name is Angela Roberts, and I'm a blah, 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 blah," what is that person going to do?
They're gonna run. They might not even just respond. They might just flat out run, right?
They're going to look at you like, "Oh my God, who is this person? What is she
Right?
doing here?"
Right?
So you got to think about, what is her pink suit? Angela, I've heard of you. You write these really cool articles. I love what you're doing in the industry. I'd love to follow you,
Example.
blah, blah, blah. Let Angela respond back and then say, you know what? If you got any advice, have a real conversation with people rather than just pushing
Yes,
this rubber band man
yes,
all over.
yes. It's direct message or email too, guys.
Yeah.
Even if you're texting a recruiter, I always say you still have to treat it like like an in-person professional conversation, right? And keep in mind that I always say
Mhm.
too that the interview process starts from the moment that you decide to put yourself out there and say, I want this role.
That's
So
exactly right.
everything
Yeah.
that you're doing, recruiters, hiring managers, it's being watched, it's being assessed, and it's being, you know,
Everything.
everything. They're considering it when they think about you as a candidate and whether they should hire you or not.
I'm so glad you said that because they don't get it. We'll ask people to complete a pre-qualification process and they misspellings or y'all. Southern people, do not write y'all out in a freaking sentence in an email when you're applying for a job. That is not okay. It drives me crazy. Things like that.
Can't help it, Angela. It's
I'm from the South.
real
I mean, come
word.
on.
It's a real word for us. I say y'all like all the time.
But saying it and taking the time to incorrectly type it out, I am just sorry. That's like
But
adding
for
salt
us,
to your
it's
food
like,
before you taste it. It just
but if it's deep in you. If you're maybe you thought you maybe some people think that that's like grammatically correct, right? I mean,
right.
it's because we say it all the time. It's a lot of stuff we say that it's just not right, right? Like fix
Yeah.
it and all
I
the
agree. I agree. But to your point, you're on, and you have to consider your audience. I mean, if they're professional, you got to match energy with energy. If
yeah,
they're super professional and buttoned up, you need to be super.
yeah,
You still need to be real. You still need to be genuine. But you've got to You've got to meet them where they are,
yeah,
and which means that you guys need to be thinking about them, not just you.
exactly. Exactly. Going back to the topic, right? Everything is about them. The resume,
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
branding, whether it's online or offline, the interview, like everything is about the company, their need. How can you solve their problem? How can you fill their need?
Exactly.
Point
Yeah,
blank.
because they're desperate. They're desperate for someone to join their team. They want you. That's the thing, is they want you, right? So you just have to show them why they want you.
That's it. That's it. It can be that simple, guys. Manisha asked another question. She said, why people here do not consider a candidate without Canadian experience despite having work experience in other countries. I'm assuming you mean in the US, Manisha. So when she says why people here, she's talking about the US, Angela. And then she said she has a PhD, prior work experience. She's working towards her goal, also enrolled for Canadian education, despite having acceptable qualification, volunteering, taking newcomers classes, etc., doing everything to get a decent job, but still not getting anywhere. How does it work?
Bless her heart. No, I understand it. And even if you're in Canada and you're trying to apply for Canadian positions, but all of your experiences in other countries, I get it. It's tough. Volunteer work is really good. That's really smart.
It
Very,
is.
very smart. Matter of fact, I would say it's probably one of the smartest approaches that you
It
can
is.
take.
My very
Hmm.
first experience was a volunteering.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, super smart. It gets you that experience because I just had this conversation. I hired two individuals several weeks ago, and I still do end of days with them to where we're going through profiles that they're cleaning and sourcing and all that. And there were a couple of them from other countries that they were cleaning, and they were like, "Well, what do I do with these people?" They had applied for jobs, and one of the individuals in particular only had experience in another country, and that was it. And the issue really isn't with us as recruiters, third party, it's with our clients, because whenever we place someone, our clients expect, and again, I'm coming from the perspective of experienced CRAs, and I know it's a little bit different than what you're asking, Manisha, but I'll give you my thought process on it, and then we can kind of segue into an entry level type thing. But whenever we position individuals and we're representing them for positions, they need to have a certain level of competency. And you can get a lot of book learning. You can get all kinds of book learning. I mean, I have 3 degrees. And again, my dad calls me an overeducated idiot. I mean, it is what it is, right? So, but it's that work experience that makes a difference. And it doesn't take as much time if you've got the work experience in another country and then you need to translate that into Health Canada or FDA. It's not going to take like 2 years or whatever. It's just going to take a handful of months to understand the regs, how it works, the processes, because each country is different. Each country's ethics are different. That is also the reason why we only recruit in North America, because each country's ethics are different. It isn't just regulatory, it's a whole host of things.
Yeah.
Eligibility criteria and how people look at it, and all of those types of things. And so volunteering is really smart, because then you're getting acclimated into the country that you're working in. You're learning the regulatory body, you're learning the ethics, and you're networking, right? I mean, you're doing everything right. And I hate to say just hang tight, it's going to happen, but I don't know what else to say except for to hang tight, it's going to happen, because you're competing with everybody else that's already got that experience. So if you're not sticking to it, the stick to itiveness and networking and learning what you can learn in the volunteer work, it's going to be really hard for you to break in, at least until the economy turns. And I don't know, Jasmine, if you've got different advice or a different view on it or not, but that's where I would sit with it.
Well, I would take her back also to everything that we've been saying, because I've seen people and helped people that have made transitions, but it's the same thing. It doesn't matter what country you're in. You still have to show the value
Yeah.
to the, that you bring to the company. You still have to show how you can solve their problem. So it doesn't matter what country you're in. If you present that well and tell the story like Angela's been talking about, then they'll gladly take you. So when it comes to the regulatory differences, you can also, like you said, you can look these up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, I think, Manisha, you said you're currently not working. But for the people that are in your current roles, like I had a CRA, one of my CRAs in Brazil, she asked about doing some visits in the US because we needed, some people to do some visits. And that's how she was able to get some US experience. So sometimes when you're already working in a company, if you just go to the CTM, the PM, whoever your line manager,
Good point.
there's
Mm-hmm.
opportunities within your organization where if hey, I want to move to the US, I want to move to Canada or Australia or wherever, you can start going back to you saying if we need a goal, you need a plan, right? When
Yeah.
you map this out, then you can make those strategic decisions, and then it's not as challenging. And that goes back to what I say when I say we make it hard on ourselves.
We do, and I'm so glad that you said that because I see that sometimes people are coming over from Russia or the Ukraine or Pakistan or wherever, and they work for IQVIA, and they're like, "I'm desperate to come into the United States. Please help me find a job." I'm like, "Go talk to your management at
You're right.
IQVIA and find out how you can like move
Right.
over
That's
here."
that's the perfect opportunity because we all know places like IQVIA, they have people everywhere
Yeah,
and they can make it happen. But they also keep in mind want to make it happen for people that are really contributing to the company. They're not going to just because then they might have to sponsor you. And I'm not going to get into all
but that is a challenge, isn't it? It
yeah,
really is.
it
Most of the
is.
companies that we work with don't sponsor, and that is a big challenge
It
for
is.
individuals.
It is. And I always like to say, if your brand is strong enough, you market yourself well enough, you can get anybody to sponsor you. It really everything is going to always go back to your brand and how you market yourself.
Agreed.
Because if that's
Agreed.
on point, like you said, people want people. So it,
Desperate, desperate for them.
right. So if they feel like you feel that need, the sponsorship is like not a big deal, especially for a company like IQVIA, right?
It's a letter. It's a letter, you guys. We're not talking about. I mean, it is a legal thing, and they got to get.
Yeah, they do
Everybody hates to get legal involved, and
Yeah, but for companies like IQVIA, it's not a big deal, right?
yeah,
They can make that happen. They
they
have
can.
the funds, they have the resources. So if you're already working there, for sure, like talk to your line
Mhm.
manager. That's like the quickest way.
The other thing too is work on global projects.
Global projects, that's another thing.
Because
And
we asked that question. Yeah. Do you have any experience with FDA regs or Health Canada regs or whatever, even if you are coming from the Ukraine or what have you? And, tell me what that looks like because that's what I need to know.
that's what you right? That's it. That's the missing piece. And a lot of people don't understand that that's what they need to know. Nobody cares that you had this bachelor's and this master's, you got
Mhm.
another master's, you're working on your P. Like nobody cares.
Mhm.
You need to show the value that you bring.
Yeah. And what you've done. And do it and phrase it on your resume in a way of accomplishments. You
Accomplishment,
know,
I always say keep everything that you do accomplishment and achievement focused, whether it
and don't embellish. We had a guy this past week that said that he was a lead CRA for the company that he just left. And when we took his references, they said he wasn't a lead CRA, he was a CRA. Yeah, he mentored other CRAs, but he wasn't a lead, he wasn't a title lead. In his resume, he had listed lead titles, including development of protocols. Now, Jasmine, how many CRAs do you know develop protocols?
not a single one.
Never, 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 never,
Never in
never.
ever. I don't
So, I
even
mean, you
know
got to be careful, right?
if you even ask to I don't even know if they would even let you participate. That's like a whole nother department.
I mean, come on. You got to be an MD to develop a protocol. You got to understand toxicology and how it works with the human. I mean, come on. It's like, but that's the thing. Don't embellish. I mean, be honest about it. But if you have participated in FDA regulatory and you're trying to get here or in Health Canada and you're trying to get there or whatever, be honest about it. Be open about it. Tell them what you've done, and then see where it kind of goes.
Right. And a lot of times I also tell people I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but I have to say it again. If you have the branding and marketing on point, you don't need to embellish. There's
You
no
don't.
need. People feel like even the fake people, I tell them all the time, you don't need to be fake to get in. You can do it. I know it might seem impossible, but everybody that's a CRA, we never had experience until we got the job.
You're a CRA.
Right? That's all of us. So you can do it. We all did it. And it's not worth it because you don't want to get blacklisted. And I know we have a whole topic on that, but it really goes back to the branding and marketing.
Mhm.
And that can really take you anywhere. And it doesn't matter what country you're in either, because I get people from all the countries saying, can I help? It's when it comes to getting the job, it's going to always boil down to your branding and marketing and how you position your experience, your past, accomplishments, achievements, and how that can then in turn help out the company. That's what it all boils down to.
I agree. Yeah. Because whenever you're looking at it, whenever a company's looking at you, Well, there, and here's what I do. Again, after I've read your resume like a novel, I want to visualize you on my team. I want to like you, which means I need to get to know you, the real you. So don't fake your way in. Be honest in the interview, be professional, be positive, talk about your goals, but be you. Don't have canned responses or don't tell me what you think you want me to hear. I mean, just be really honest in you. This is why I want this job because of blah, 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 blah. And I mean, be excited and passionate and put out that energy of joy and excitement and all of those types of things so that I connect with you. Because once I connect with you, I'm going to be in your corner. And I will tell you that every hiring manager that connects with their candidates are going to take those notes to every other hiring manager in their company and say, this is why you need to hire Jasmine. She's a stinking cutie pie and she knows this and this and this and this and this. And there are tips and tricks that we can give you in the interview process and all of that. But the biggest thing I can tell you is to be you and be
That's
excited. Raise that energy to a joyous level so that they know you're serious and that you're sincere about what you can do to help the company and that hiring manager's team accomplish their goals. That's the key right there.
absolutely 100%. Um, I mean, spot on. I feel like we're saying the same things, but I mean, when sometimes you need to hear the same thing
Mhm.
multiple times. I know I do. And one person that's watching us today, Jesse, the one person that had the first comment,
Mhm.
he is a very good example of everything that you just described in terms of networking and telling his story and putting himself like he's really great at doing that. I mean, the fact that I'm even talking about him, right? I mean, right? It shows that he's done his
Yeah.
so if people are wondering about a good example, Jesse is a great example that you guys can definitely follow.
Go check out his profile. See? Yeah.
Yes. And then let's see. I'm gonna try to keep going. I feel like I'm moving. So, oh God, it's already 8. Do you, know, do you have time? Do you have time?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna not drag this out. I'm gonna keep it moving. So Brandon says, Jesse, from my experience, you're in a good position this might not be for us. From my experience, you're in a good position as a CRC to migrate to a CRO as a CRA, especially with a bachelor's and 2 years experience. However, please know you'll be competing with some tough resumes and background. I believe anyone with the right aptitude can become a CRA, and therefore okay, this was not for us.
Well, but with that being said, Jesse, follow my LinkedIn profile. That task force is going to speak a little bit about how you can compete a little bit better. And I think that's going to be, hopefully, you already have a position with the CRO by then, but it's going to be in August. And I'm working with the IAOCR right now to help define a better path. We're trying to compile a list of CROs that do offer CRA academies for CRC to CRA transition because there's a big need for it in this industry. I mean, there's a huge need for entry level in this industry. And so for someone like you to be able to go into, and I'll tell you, there are companies like MedPace and Novella. I know Novella is part of IQVIA, but Novella still has a very strong training program that's specific to kind of bridge to that. There's some other companies that have CRA academies. PPD is a really good one. I mean, there's some really good companies out there, but we're in the process now of compiling a list of those because I get asked a cajillion times a day, how can I break into the business? It'd be nice to be able to point you to something on our website that says, this is how you do it, and go apply for these companies because these are the ones that offer the CRA academies. But your big CROs is where I would start. And just don't give up. Don't give up.
Yeah, the big CROs are the ones that have the resources to bring in like a bunch at one time. If sometimes like GSK and Pfizer, like on the pharma side, like the bigger pharma companies, sometimes they'll bring in entry levels, but they don't have like the huge programs. It's like,
And they outsource a lot of their day to day too. So it's not, well, I don't want to discount their training programs. It's not the same robustness.
it's different. Yeah, it's different. So yeah, and Icon is another one. Worldwide has one. Pretty much all the larger ones, Par Excel, they all do. So yes, check it out. And I'm so glad you're working on that list.
Mhm.
And thanks, Brandon, for the advice to Jesse. I tell him that all the time that he's ready, but I will say that it doesn't have to be hard. It
Mhm.
doesn't. And then so Manisha, she had another comment. Oh, this is not for us again. Hi, Glenda. But I believe in myself and system, waiting on doing myself. Okay. And I agree with that little comment, Manisha. Okay, so Mariana. Hi, I come from the scientific research field. Me too, Mariana. I would used to be doing bench science research in the pharmacology lab working on cancer, pancreatic cancer studies. So me too. And I want to transition into clinical research because I want to have more direct impact on people. Do you have any suggestions for my transition? The same things, right? That we've been saying to everybody else.
Mhm.
Same things. I feel like we've answered that. Do you have any?
I can't think of anything else, quite honestly. I mean, I know that you've walked that walk. I mean, what was your path in?
So it's pretty much the same, like going back to personal branding, self-marketing. I hate to keep repeating it, but I really had to work on my brand and showing that because a lot of people think, okay, I'm a bench scientist, like, duh, I can do clinical research. In our heads, Mariana, yes, if you can come up with a whole experiment and conduct it yourself, yes, you can do clinical research. But it is two completely different industries in terms of preclinical versus clinical. The language, the terms, yes, we're still
And you're dealing with humans.
dealing with humans, and yes, we're still conducting experiments. The foundations of how experiments should be conducted is the same, but the concept, because you're dealing with humans, is like it's a lot more involved and a lot more regulated, and it's just a lot more.
And it's not just the research part that's different because if it's the human, it's the soft skills.
The soft skills are different too.
Yeah.
Yes,
So if I were to tell anybody that's trying to navigate that, you most people that are looking at bench individuals, my vision is someone behind a microscope with a white lab coat, right? I mean,
we
so how do
cannot wear
you
lab coats all the time, okay?
So what I would say is, how do you articulate the soft skills of being a CRA or a CRC? I mean, you're dealing with people who are scared. You're dealing with people who don't understand. You're dealing with people. You're dealing with the ego of the doctor. You're dealing with the monitors that are coming in and correcting you. You're dealing with telling people they can't be in, they can't be. I mean, there's all these soft skills you've got to be able to exhibit that you already have or that you're able and willing to learn. And to me, that's the biggest thing with the CRA thing. I can have a CRA pass a competency quiz, but that doesn't mean they're going to be a good CRA.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
and I'm
know,
glad you pointed out all those things because Mariana, everything that Angela just mentioned is things that at the bench, like if you think about it, you are doing those things on a daily basis. But I can almost guess, usually when I see PhDs, their CV and resume reads like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
very scientific, which I
Very
love,
scientific,
but
but it's not showing what Angela's talking about. You got to show how that
your
transfers.
story,
Right, how that transfers, how that
yeah.
translates to the clinical research side, to that specific company. So how does what you've done at the bench, why does that matter to us? How is that going to help you now become a good CRA? Which it really does. But as
Mm-hmm.
a scientist, we're not trained to think that way in terms of branding and marketing and all that stuff. So Mariana, I'm guessing that's your issue, because you have everything else. If you've been at the bench, you've got your piece, like you can do it, but you have to, like, going back to what you said earlier, you have to show them that you can do it.
And the soft skills are really the key.
Soft skills are really the key.
That's the key. I mean, we can teach someone how to do SDV. Come on.
Yeah,
I mean, we can teach somebody how to make sure TMF is clean.
yeah,
That is not the point. A
no,
good CRA navigates the dynamics of the site, handles a high touch sponsor, is able to deal with timelines, and I mean, it's all the soft skills that's important, and that's what we spend most of our time on whenever we're vetting candidates out.
yes.
Mhm.
And one thing I will add with Mariana is that for me, because I didn't know the things that I know now when I was trying to transition, it took me a while because I was trying to figure it out. So that's when I left the bench. I volunteered first, and then because of
Mhm.
that, I was able to get a study coordinator position, and then I was able to transition into a CTA. So sometimes you may have to take, I know PhDs don't want to hear this. They want to go straight to CRA or straight to CTM or PM, which they're not doing yourself a service. I mean, you're doing yourself a disservice by trying to speed up the pace sometimes just because it is so different. To go for the pitch directly to a CTM is insane.
Yeah.
Because you don't know the language, you don't even know how to manage your CRAs, you don't know the aspects of
That's really the key right there. Whenever we have clients that want us to hire CRA managers or CTMs, if the client doesn't require the person to have had previous CRA experience, we require it. And it's only because how are you going to manage someone when you don't understand their role?
Exactly. And I've had a CTM that had never been a CRA, and it makes your job more challenging. Sometimes you might even have to explain some things to them because they completely are just oblivious to not only the CRA role, but even what goes on at the site.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important. It's important to me anyway. I mean, I know all companies don't look at it the same way, but to me, it's important as a manager. I know I know how to do everything that I ask my team to do. Everything.
That's it.
And I am able and willing to jump in with them and help them with it if they get behind. First of all, it shows that they'll respect me because I respect them. And it's important because I understand what they're walking every single day as a manager. And whenever we recruit a CRA or CTM, we look at the same attributes. A CRA or CTM who's a CRA manager or CTM who has been a CRA before gets it. They understand the life. So to go from the bench to a CTM to me is a tall order because it's not impossible. We've seen it, especially on academia.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
But I would suggest that you climb the ranks, even if you're very honest about, I'm only doing this because I want to be a CTM. Be transparent.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Because that will only benefit you in the long run. And also, I would say, for the people that do just make that jump, or they're like, I want to make that jump, I don't want to go in between, don't do it. It's just so the learning curve it's almost a 90-degree angle. It literally is if you go from the bench directly to TM. Sometimes even from the bench to CRA. Because it's just so many different moving pieces, right? Which is why I always say the study coordinator is such a great role because you get to see the site level and first. So transitioning to the CRA is like so much easier because you already know what you're supposed to be seeing and managing and doing. And that's half the battle right there.
I agree. And you're being monitored by that CRA. You know what they're looking for. Being able to swap that role over is it's an easier step for sure.
Exactly. Let me see. So some others are comments. So Brandon said Victoria Walker within clinical operations at a global CRO, at least from my experience, is the lowest position on the ladder for site interface besides the CTA maybe, or I don't understand that. So let me take that off. I didn't see anything from Victoria either, but I know sometimes I don't. I'm trying to also look check it live. I don't see anything. So Victoria, if you ask the question, can you ask again? I don't see it. And then
I see a comment from Alicia where she had indicated that she had been hacked by LinkedIn, and I really hate that because I know that happens. Y'all do make sure that your passwords. See
who
y'all.
said that?
You see that? Did you hear the y'all? So y'all make sure that your passwords and your logins are very, very, very hard with LinkedIn because you can't. I mean, LinkedIn is going to be your golden key. You can't abandon it. I've had women that have said, "Look, I'm stalked by my ex-husband. I'm this, I'm that, or whatever." I mean, I get it. I understand that there are issues there, but your career, it's hard. And I know we're going to talk about it as professional women. I can't remember what week that is. We're going to talk about how to become stronger as professional women. And I mean, there's
July.
Okay, there you go. But you got to figure out how to be able to navigate that. Even if you go with a maiden name or something to where someone can't track you, that you're worried about tracking you. Whenever you send your resume, just explain why.
Yeah.
I mean, again, transparency. Just don't,
People don't get it. Transparency, being yourself and being transparent is the best thing you can do for yourself, period.
Yeah.
Period. And people don't get that. Okay, so Faith says personal branding and marketing equals passion and purpose. Agree with that. Brandon is giving some more advice. Brandon is giving a lot of advice.
Thank you, Mr. Brandon.
Let's see. And then Nellie says, "Good evening, ladies. Hey, Nellie. I'm a CRC with 5 years experience, and I definitely agree networking is the key. My passion and goal is to become a CRA." Well, if you've been a CRC for 5 years,
You're
Nellie,
ready.
you're ready.
Yeah, you're absolutely ready. And I don't know how large the site is. I mean, it can be Dr. Herman's site versus an MD Anderson, and that might make a difference too. But definitely, I mean, I don't know who your CRAs are and what sponsors you're hosting at the site, but you know, when you guys have SIVs, that is a freaking career event. An SIV, you know, going into these,
Right?
and I know more and more of these are remote, but these are networking opportunities.
Still an opportunity. Exactly.
Yeah, and
Same
not
thing
just
for
for these.
investigator meetings too, right?
Exactly. And those kind of went away through the pandemic. I'm starting to see them come back a little bit, but you know, you got CREs and their managers and they're reaching out to you every once in a while. You got site contacts. I mean, it's networking, networking, networking. Ask them who they know. Tell them, this is what I want to do. Tell them what you want to do.
Everybody should know when they see you or hear your name what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's
Front
your
and center.
brand. That's your brand.
Because then whenever someone says, I need a CRA for whatever company, I know the gal. Nellie, she's been in this position for 5 years. She freaking walks on water. Love her. Talk to her. She'll become a great CRA
Exactly.
for you.
Exactly.
That's what you got to do.
Exactly. But if they don't know what you want, how can they help you?
I agree. You got to be a front and center. You got to make people fall in love with you and your passion.
Exactly. All a part of your brand, guys, and how
Mhm.
you market yourself. Marty says that she just started as a CRC with a goal to become a CRA. How do I get on a fast track towards that goal?
That one's a hard one for me. I know there are some classes like, you know, clinical fast track and all that. And we know people that teach. Elizabeth Weeks is phenomenal. And she, you know, we know that there's a lot that comes with it. It's really hard for me to give an answer to that that's going to be anything but discouraging because for me, education is beautiful. Again, overeducated idiot. But it's putting your head down and doing the work that makes the difference. And that doesn't mean you have to do it for years and years and years. It just, to me, I want to see a history. I want to see that you stuck to a job. I want to see that it's more to you than an education. Because here's the thing, whenever we get people that apply and they haven't been in the industry for more than 2 years yet, we put them in the not now category. Do you know how many people, Jasmine, do you think fall out of the industry before 2 years is up?
Oh God. I know that the numbers are super high.
89%.
89? I thought you were going to say like 60, 70.
So for us from a recruiting perspective, again, we're trying to save our time, getting 500 messages a day. If you haven't been in the industry for at least 2 years, I've only got 11% chance of being able to work with you
Yeah,
2 years from now.
it's so crazy. But I remember now in my even when I was an in-house CRA at back at Parkdale, in my groups, like there were several people that they didn't make it past like 3 months. When I was doing my CRA training at QV, well, it was Quincy, and there's people that they didn't make it past the 3 months or the 6 months mark. Like people slowly just said, "This isn't for me."
Yeah. And so I appreciate the question, and I certainly don't want to be discouraging at all, and I'm sorry. But what I can say is that to me, it's more than education. It's the stick to itiveness. It's the story. It's you telling me where you are and where you're going and where you want to be based off of what I can see where you've been. If all I see is education,
Yeah. And one thing that I will add, Marty, is that I would ask myself, why do I want to fast track this goal? Like, what are my intentions?
it's stronger to stick to your role for a while. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I always tell people to think about their intentions, because if your intention isn't coming from a clean, energetic place, then that might not be the best move or the best choice, the best decision for you. You always got to question your intentions. If it's just strictly because you need to hurry up and make some more money, absolutely not. It's not a good reason. So ask yourself, why are you fast tracking it? You just started. I don't know the rest of your history, but if this is like your first industry role, then you want to give yourself some time to learn the industry. And this is a great opportunity. Like Angela said, it don't have to be years and years. But I would say in order to fast track your career is to really dig into that coordinator role and make it the best quality experience ever, right? Because sometimes you can be somewhere for a year, but if you really work that experience, it's like you've been there for 3 or 4 years because you gained so much knowledge, so much information, right? So you gotta every opportunity, you gotta really, really take advantage of the opportunity and not just do the basics of your job.
I love that you said that. Napoleon Hill talks about that in Think and Grow Rich. And you guys, it's a great book. It's old and
I
it's
got,
very outdated.
I got,
It's
I've read it
very,
like 3 times.
but he talks about, I've like taught it. I've taught it to people because it is so important. But one of the chapters talks about the and then some factor.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about where every task that you decide to take on, you do what you're expected and then some. Not because you're being asked, not because you're being compensated, but because you're going above and beyond in order to make a difference. It's not for your employer, it's for you.
Exactly.
And it makes a huge difference. And it'll get you seen and it'll make you progress faster than anything else in the world.
Anything else.
Mhm.
Anything else. So I think that Marty, that would be my plan on fast tracking my career, right? Because then it happens natural and organically, and you're ready.
Mhm.
Glenda says, stick to it. Yes, Glenda, stick to it. Alicia, I think you already brought this one up about
Yeah.
how she got hacked.
Yeah.
And she almost started not to add back more her info back on there, so she decided to add it back. And a few days later, she had a recruiter that reached out to her about the role she was working on landing. So she's so glad that she moved forward with keeping her LinkedIn. I'm so glad you shared that story, Alicia.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm so glad because some people, they would, especially if they're already scared to be on LinkedIn, they would have been like, oh no, LinkedIn is not for me, right? Um,
Yeah.
but I'm so glad to hear that, that you actually got the recruiter to reach out, and it goes back to what we're saying.
Mhm.
If you position yourself well, the recruiters are gonna find you. They're nobody is like just sitting around hanging on a position, not filling them, right? Nobody is just laugh. You're not just hanging, y'all aren't just hanging around in the office laughing, saying, ha ha ha, we have these
We only get paid if we fill the positions, you guys. It's in our best interest to hire you. Trust me.
right. So if you stand out, they're gonna contact you if you
Yeah.
grab the attention.
But that really is the key, isn't it? I mean, I think they have to understand how recruiters work.
Got to.
And that really, we wrote that article not too long ago, too. You guys don't pay us. The companies pay us when we place you there. It is in our best interest to A, place you, and B, place you for as much money as we can get for you. So when you're working with a recruiter, well, not a sleazy one, because if you're contracting, then that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at, you're working with a recruiter and they're trying to place you in a permanent role, it's going to be in their best effort to place you in a position that earns you the best money possible. So if you're getting called by recruiters, there's a reason. And it's not, I mean, I'm not saying the recruiter's not bad, but if they saw something in you that they thought they could get something out of because people are egocentrical and, well, then they're going to reach out to you, though. If they feel like they can get something out of it, they're going to reach out to you. So if they're passing you by, there's a reason for it.
Exactly. And for me, if my coaching clients, but even myself, I always stop. You got to take a pause sometimes and evaluate and assess. I think a lot of people are moving so fast, especially in our, day and age. But you got to really just take a pause and look and say, okay, what am I doing? And what do I need to be doing? And where's the gap? You got to
Mhm.
sometimes just ask yourself. And throwing out more applications is not always the key. And I think people don't realize that.
Well, garbage in, garbage out. If there's something wrong with your profile, if there's something wrong with your resume, if there's something wrong with your cover letter, you can put it out as many times as you want to. You're still not going to get contacted.
Not going to get it. If there's something wrong with your conversation,
Mhm.
And whether that's online or offline, and you're sending messages or emails, or like you said, you go to the networking event, you just run in somebody's face and just vomit all your experience. That's not gonna change anything.
Yeah.
So you really gotta really have a plan. Going back to what we said at the beginning, which I work on career plans with all my people, you really gotta have a plan. So people, if you don't have a career plan, get a career plan. If you don't know what it is, what it entails, Google it. And maybe that's another episode that I
How to
can,
set goals.
yeah, that's
I mean, because
another good one.
I think goal setting is very spiritual.
I do too. I'm glad you said that. I do too. And I think people just think it's just like a checklist,
No,
and it's
no,
not. It's so
no.
much more.
Yeah, because you got to really mean it. You got to really want it, and it's got to align with you and your divine. And if it doesn't, it's not going to work.
Not
So
gonna
it's a
work.
very spiritual work effort for sure.
I'm so glad you said that. We're always on the same page. um, okay. And then Joni asked, I think we may have already covered this when we were talking about it. Why does applying to multiple openings translate to desperate and not casting a wide net?
It depends on whether or not it's multiple openings within a company or across multiple companies. I am all for applying to multiple companies. Absolutely. And we present candidates to multiple options. Clients need to move quickly if they want them. So it's not that at all. But if it's a company, apply to one position, the best position that fits you. And if it doesn't fit you, apply for it anyway and explain why you're applying for it. If you apply to every position they have, they're thinking, I mean, we don't even look at it because it just shows a sign of immaturity to us, because it's like, okay, again, if you got a goal, you're applying to the position that fits you best, and you're explaining if it doesn't fit you, why you're still applying for it. I desperately want to work for CRA Resources, and this is why. Angela, I love you, I blah, 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 whatever it is, right? You put it out there so that you can win an interview with us. Just because you applied 12 times doesn't mean I'm going to give you 12 interviews.
And for the people that are when you say applying to all the positions, do you mean all the positions have the same title or different titles?
Well, we only place CRAs, but they might be different locations or different therapeutics, or some are perm and some are contract, some are 50%, some are 25, some are 100%, some are whatever. But we have people that will apply to all of them. You're applying to perm, contract, oncology, medical device. Now, maybe you're qualified for all of them, but first of all, don't think I'm stupid. If I look at again, I'm going to try to place you anywhere I can place you. So if I look at your credentials, I'm going to be like, oh my God, she's going to fit here, 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 and here. And I'm going to submit you to all of them if you pass our qualification process. You don't need to apply to all 12 of them. But the other aspect of it is, if you apply to positions and you're not qualified, then that sends a flag up to me as well, especially if you're applying to all of them. So pick the one that matches the best, and trust the agency or the internal recruiter to say, wow, she looks really great. Not only would she fit this oncology project, but she'll fit this heart transplant project and this kidney disease project and this whatever project, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're applying for perm and contract, I'm questioning if you have a direction.
Right. Because it's like, what? What? Which one do you want? Where are you going? Where are you taking this?
And if you're open to either, that's a problem for me. You've either made a decision to be a contractor or you made a decision to be a perm. You can't say I'm open to both. That's not okay. I'm not okay with that, because that means that you're not in control. And I want to work with someone who's in control.
Right. And then qualified, because I know some people, they get like, oh, I have to meet 100% of the job description criteria. When you say qualified versus unqualified, you aren't referring to the people who don't meet all the criteria, but they meet most, right? We're not talking about
That's exactly right. We always have, we have what we call the basic requirements and what we call the chili pepper requirements. So the basic requirements are, you have to have at least 3 years of this or at least 2 years of that. And then the chili pepper is, oh my God, she's got stem cell, whatever. She's got this, that, or the other. Those we'll put on job posts, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you absolutely have to have it. The basic core you have to have.
Yep. I tell people that all the time. What would you say from your experience, would be the percentage of requirements that they should meet in order to say that they are still qualified? 60, 70%?
I would say the core would be 100%. So if they're looking for someone, look at the core, which would be, if, for example, if you're applying for a clinical research associate position and the clinical research associate position is a senior CRA and they're requiring at least 3 to 5 years experience, you need to have at least 2. And if you only have 2, you better have a good foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So there is definitely some leeway. What's your story?
What's your story? Right.
What's your story?
Right.
Right? I mean, that's to me is the key. I tell my team all the time, okay, she doesn't have 3 years experience, but look at that coordinator or that data manager or the CTA or the document controller or whatever it is that they've got as the foundation that's bridging them to that CRA work. That's gold to me, because they're telling a story. They're on a path and I can see that path and that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. And then even for the entry-level roles, a lot of people complain and say entry-level CRA roles, they still say you need experience. Just for the people that haven't heard my story, my first entry-level CRA role, it said on the job description that you needed 2 years of experience. And by the way, I didn't submit an application for it either. The recruiters found me. But the job description said 2 years of the monitoring experience. I didn't have that. I didn't have any of that. So going back to what you said, it doesn't always have to be like to the T, but like even I'll get entry level. Well, they should be entry level CRAs and they're applying to the senior CRA roles and it says like 5+ years. Absolutely not. If you don't have any experience, definitely don't jump there. But if it says entry level, trust that it's entry level and showcase what you do have and how that translates into how you would be a great CRA for the company. Stop focusing on, the fact that it says 1 year, 2 years. Because if you
I agree. And just bridge to it. But be honest. I know I don't have this, but this is why I think I can do
but
that.
this
And
is
then
why.
bridge.
Exactly. Exactly. Especially, for example, the people that have said they've been study coordinators, or you've been a CTA, or you've been a study startup specialist, or whatever. You have the experience, you have the skill set. So apply, but don't apply to the senior roles. If it says 5 years, if it says 3 years, that's not for you.
I agree. And I've had that before. And I ask why. Well, what did I have to lose? You are now blacklisted from our company. That's what you had to lose, because now I don't trust your judgment. Would you have taken the job if you were offered it? You have no way to go execute the job. And you're going, I mean, why would you even apply for a job that you can't do? It's like applying for a brain surgeon. Hey, I'm a Walmart greeter, but I want to apply for a brain surgeon job. What have I got to lose?
Right. You have to be, I'm a firm believer in miracles, but you have to use some judgment. Okay, guys. And if you're the baby CRA, do not apply for the senior, because they're going to treat you like a senior. And like Angela said, you're not going to be able to make it past the first week or 2.
And you're going to ruin your brand.
You're going to ruin your brand, because they're going to literally just send you a computer and you're going to have to log in when you first start. They're going to give you a list of things to do and you're going to be on your way because you're a senior, or you're for a senior position. But if you're not truly a senior, you're going to be completely lost. So you, like you said, what do you have to lose?
Everything. And your impact, you also got to think about, this is a holistic universe. It's not just about you. You're hurting that company. You're hurting that project. This study could cure Alzheimer's. Does your mom have Alzheimer's? Are you really going to go work on this study that could make or break a drug that cures a disease that's important to the human race in a position that you can't do?
And can't do, not because you can't learn it and actually be that CRA, but can't do because you've tried to skip the line and jump to a position that you're just not ready for. You can get ready for it, but don't like just list yourself just because. What do you have to lose?
Agreed. Yeah.
Brandon says, make tactical decisions to get towards your goal. Angela Roberts, that's a beautiful statement. Thank you, Brandon. Brandon is just helping us. He's like, the administrator for the comments. Let's see. I don't think this is for us. I think this is their conversation that they're having in the
I
comments.
think it might be.
Yeah. Okay. And Bethlehem says this is her. Bethlehem joined me yesterday. So hi, Bethlehem. She said that this is an email example that she sent out. So good afternoon. I hope all is well. I was doing some research on IQVIA and see that the company has a presence in more than 45 countries, allowing it to recruit patients from diverse populations and increase the diversity of the study population. That is a company I would love to be a part of, as it is able to gather reliable data on investigational products. I've been working as a CRC and have had the opportunity to work on a variety of trials, including those involving, I think that's all it let her put.
But I think that Bethlehem, I think if I understand you correctly, this is how you're trying to say, hey, look, I want to work for you.
Right. And she's given us an example of an email that I
Mhm.
guess she sent to a recruiter and saying, like, is that a good one?
I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
the only thing I will tell you this, and this is a Zig Ziglar thing, but the only thing I always like to steer clear of, and I get these all the time from people that are trying to sell me something, is good afternoon, I hope all is well, or I hope you're having a great day. Nobody cares if I'm having a great day. I mean, quite honestly, whenever they're reaching out to me, they can care less. They want something from me. So just get to it. Be transactional, or be very clear about what it is that you're looking for. I understand the whole politeness thing, but whenever this is real estate, this first sentence, I mean, if the only thing I would critique about this whole email, because the email is terrific, you're identifying the fact that you've researched the company, you love what they do, you're passionate about it, you like to be a part of it. I would say that. I've researched the company. This is what I love about it. I'm passionate about it. I want to be a part of it. You don't have to tell me good morning, good afternoon. I hope you're doing well. You and I both know you don't know me from Adam. You could care less if I'm doing well. You want to get your message across. It sounds harsh, but don't waste real estate in an email.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say that was a good one too, except maybe a little bit too much fluff with all the countries and all that stuff. And I always like to say, well, I say this for interviews, but I guess you could apply for like emails and networking and stuff like that. But also talk about like what they're doing in the industry to train CRAs and retain CRAs, and how you want to be a part of an organization that, is one of the leading industry training experts, and how
Takes care of their team members and
right. And not only that, but they build them, because you want to show, going back to what you said, that you're going to stay and stick to it, so that they build them, and you want a place where you can grow as a CRA. And then, maybe if you want to go into CTM, PM, whatever, but show them that side of things too, not just like, the standard, what's on the website, so to speak.
Yeah. But it's a really great, I love her approach to this. I think it's that you're exactly where we're talking about, is make it about them and what they're doing and what you've seen that they're doing that you resonate with. So
yeah, I agree. It's even if she sent it as is, I still think it's great. And then so we have a bunch of other comments. Brandon is really keeping everybody in check. He says, I'm just here because my fiance is an aspiring CRA. That's so funny.
Brendan, you're cute. That's fun.
And she asked, why is CRA an entry-level role? Dan Sfera did a whole video. I don't know if it's on LinkedIn or if it was just on Instagram, but he talks about how being a CRA, even the entry-level CRA roles, is not an entry-level role because of all the things that you have to do. It's just not an entry-level industry role.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like calling a certified project manager an entry level role into management, right? It is, And I agree. I agree with Dan on that, because maybe it is a dichotomy title of an entry.
He talks about that. He says he don't care what type of CRA you are, that's not an entry level role. And I agree, because That's part of the reason why it's so hard to get in, right? Because there's so many things that you have to know. You need to know the regulatory aspect and be able to quickly review the ISF and reconcile it against the TMF. It's not just about monitoring and the data, right? And then on top of that, you have to come back, you have to write reports. Then there's this whole administrative side where you got to do expense reports and timesheets and your trainings. And then you got to book your own travel. And
then you couple that with the dynamics of the site, the
the
coordinator
dynamics
that's
of the
research naive, or the coordinator that's done it for 30 years and thinks she's smarter than you, or the PI who can't be bothered to answer an email or phone call or show up during the monitoring visit. It's so much. That's why the lady that asked about fast track, and we're like, don't absorb everything you can absorb and talk. Because when we interview you, we're going to ask you about your experiences. And if you've got none,
that's the problem.
That is.
A major problem. This person, I don't know who it is, said, do you recommend taking clinical research courses or training despite having a healthcare scientific background to fast track transition into clinical research?
I think education is always a good thing. I read about a book a week. Love it.
And that's another thing. I'm glad you said book, because people think that they always have to run and get another degree to be quote unquote educated on the topic, and you don't. You don't always need to go and do another training or another degree. And I would say that I have so many people who come to me, I feel so bad because they're crying because they did get another degree and they're still having the same problem.
I tell people when they come to me with their masters and they tell me they've graduated with their masters and they're ready to take on the CRA role, you know what I tell them? I tell them that and $4 will buy you a coffee at Starbucks. A degree is not going to get you anywhere without job experience.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that.
A degree is not going to get you anywhere without experience. I have clients that don't even care if you have a degree, people.
I was just, oh my gosh, I'm so glad.
Lots of them. 70% of my clients could care less if you have a degree or not. They want the experience. Go get the experience. Get and start out as a volunteer if you have to.
Even if you have to volunteer, it's still experience.
Yeah.
Still experience. And then going back to what you said about experience, even if you have the experience, but you're not branding and marketing yourself well, people can't find you. They don't know, who this person is, what you're about. You're still going to run into the same issue.
Agreed. Yeah.
So everything that we're talking about is full circle. The goals, setting the career goals, having a plan, using a strategy, branding and marketing, all of it is key. What we've been talking about today. And then someone else said, Marty says, Alicia says she's working on her brand. She's ready to share. Oh, absolutely, Alicia. That's perfect. And the fact that she is working on her brand now, I always tell people also feel free to share that on LinkedIn, because people like to see transformations. And that's another thing that can help you get to the next level too.
And you can do case studies on your LinkedIn. If you guys haven't been on my LinkedIn, go out and look at it. Now, mine is not written like a resume because I'm not looking for a job, but you can still phrase it from a perspective of, here's what I can do for you. Here's a case study on how I solved this problem at this site. Here's blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be a 4 years of here and 5 years of there. I mean, I'm not saying change that to the point to where somebody can't read your profile, but you can certainly provide, situations to where, hey, look, I was working at a really high touch site with a high touch sponsor. I had this issue and this is how I solved it.
Exactly. And then let's see, I'm trying to get through. I feel like we have to stop at 9. That's 2 hours. It doesn't seem like we've been on for that long, does it? That's crazy. This is the longest I think I did a resume when that was about this long. So Marty says, my reason is because I was excited about getting the opportunity to start in research industry. I'm a burnt out physical therapist. I've gotten those too. That's the reason. She said, I was so excited about getting the opportunity to start in the research industry that I accepted this position that is an hour and a half away from my home. I will hang in there to get the experience. Thank you for advice, and it truly
She's our coordinator. Yeah, hang in there, sweetheart. I know it's going to be tough, but hang in there. Maybe you can find something a little bit closer to home. At some point, all the coordinating experience on a resume, if you have a really good recruiter, they can help you articulate that if you had a little bit of a short tenure. But I think that you'll do well to learn that. And there are remote. I see coordinators working
Yeah,
remote
there's
sometimes.
several remote coordinator positions.
Yeah,
And in an hour and a half, that's tough. Um,
yeah.
if possible, to temporarily get a little bit closer, I would recommend that. Um,
Mhm.
and I don't know how long you've been there, but like you said, I would definitely try to hang in there as long as I can, but also still at the same time putting out feelers. Just because I mean, people can understand an hour and a half,
And
can,
you don't want to hop too much, but if you can go to another coordinating position close to home, then again, a good recruiter can show you how to consolidate that in your resume without you changing dates. To where you can just say coordinated for these
yeah.
companies at this time, or whatever, just to show that you've got that foundational experience for sure.
Exactly. And then going back to what you always say about being transparent, when you do have these conversations and the interviews and they're talking to you, just be honest and say, I was only there briefly because it was an hour and a half away and I just couldn't,
I desperately wanted the experience. I love what they were doing. I really enjoyed a lot, but at some point, you know, and as long as you're not applying for another job that's an hour and a half away, I think you'll be okay.
be okay, right? So just be honest.
Yeah.
But as a physical therapist, I would say that she doesn't need like a ton of experience anyways.
Any type of medical background is really helpful.
Exactly. It's
Mhm.
very helpful. And then a lot of the companies, they actually seek out those people like the nurses
Mhm.
and that they're, yep. So Alicia says that she has been investing in herself and taking a pause on what she's doing wrong, which is perfect, Alicia. And she has a mentor. Perfect. That would
Yeah.
be always have a mentor, always have a coach or somebody that you're working with that's third party that's outside of the organization. Because I
Agreed.
always tell people too, yes, you have a line manager, and yes, they're supposed to be your advocate, but you don't pay them. So at the end of the day, their loyalty is always going to be to the people that pay them, which is the company. So you need a third party advocate, coach, mentor, something that's going to help you talk about the goals and stay, create a plan. That's what you need.
And we'll call your baby ugly if it's ugly.
Oh my God, that's a good one. Yeah,
I can't believe you've never heard of that before, Miss Southern.
right. What's the point of having a coach or a mentor if they're just like, "Oh, you're doing great," and your resume sucks? That's not
Mhm.
helping you. You need that honesty.
Yep. Yep.
Joni says, "Is it taboo to ask for feedback from hiring managers after rejection?"
It
No.
isn't, but don't be insulted if they don't give it.
Yeah, I would say that too. But I
Yeah.
recommend always asking. I always ask for feedback, even
Yeah.
now, even just with clients or just in general.
Mhm.
Feedback is all, and people love it too because then that shows
It shows that you care to grow. Here's the only caveat that I would give besides not being insulted is don't try to defend yourself afterwards.
don't do that either. Nope, you just take
Yeah.
it. Thank you so much. I really
Yeah.
appreciate this feedback. I'm
Even
so
if you disagree with it,
I'm so
because
grateful.
yeah, because their perception is 100%, and maybe they're dealing with blockers. We'll talk about that in a week or two.
Right, right.
But you have to understand how to navigate all the different personalities. There's research that's shown that there are 12 different distinct personalities in the world. You, as a job seeker or an employee or a manager, have to learn how to gracefully navigate every single one of those in order to motivate the individuals that you're working with to
Yeah,
get what you want out of them. And
yeah,
that might mean that they're going to insult you, but that doesn't mean you defend yourself in the process.
exactly. I agree 100%. And I take feedback very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Even for the people that are currently employed, like the people that asked about what's the quickest way to fast track my career and all that,
Mm-hmm.
have these conversations with your manager too. You can ask for feedback. What am I doing great? Where's I'm doing it great. And then what areas do I need improvement on? Where's the
Mm-hmm.
gap? And then considering your goals, okay, what do I need? What goals, what skills or experience do I need to acquire so that I can be prepared for that long-term goal?
Yep.
So these are
Mm-hmm.
conversations you need to be, it's not a one and done. You're constantly having these conversations about goals.
Absolutely agree.
Um,
Yeah.
and then someone else, this is Aria, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Aria, how do hiring managers determine if a person is overqualified for a job versus the ideal candidate with the right amount of experience?
Just the basics. I mean, we always have basic questions that we look, and it's just that we look at your resume. Do you have 3 years of this and 2 years of that and 5 years of the other? Yes or no?
And is there a such thing as being overqualified?
Yes. And if you apply for positions where you are overqualified and you don't explain why, then it's just as bad as you being underqualified.
So if you've been a director and you're like, oh my God, I'm done with this, I'm going back to being a CTA, you need to explain it. Because if you see the director for the CTA role, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
don't
you
want
need to
this
explain
job.
it. And we do see senior level managers, executives that decide to step back. I mean, they make that tactical decision to move back into a CRA role. I love it when they're doing that because that's what they want to do.
But
The problem is, are they doing it because the company had layoffs or they lost their job for whatever reason and they just got to pay bills? I appreciate it. You guys, I've washed dishes to pay bills before, but I'm not hiring you to wash dishes. I'm
right,
hiring you to put you with a client that I love and respect. And I want to make sure that you love your job, which means if you're stepping back from a position, you're stepping back into a CRE role. I don't see it as a demotion. I see it as a passion question. If you're doing it because you decided that you want to be a CRA, you missed it, you missed the site, you missed what you do as a monitor, and that's what you want to move back to, we're going to move forward. If you're like, well, you know what, I got laid off or this company got acquired or whatever, and I know I can do this, so I can handle this job. Not talking to you anymore. We're done.
well, there you have it.
Well,
Just
it's about
because,
protection of time, right? I mean, God only gives me so many hours in the day. How much time am I going to waste for someone who's not serious?
yeah, yeah. And being, and sometimes, well, let me ask you, do you recommend that person maybe dumb down their resume, CV?
No, just write a cover letter. And it doesn't need to be long. It's just a hey, look, before you look at my credentials, this is what I'm doing. Just
And this
tell
is
me.
this is why I want to kind of take a step back.
Exactly.
And we say step back, but if that's a part of your career plan, it's not a step back for you.
Exactly.
Um, and then okay, so Aria also has another question. How do you determine the keywords in a job description so your application won't get thrown away? Any apps you would recommend to help an applicant find the buzzwords to get an interview?
So go out to our website, craresources.com. There's a blog part, and I just wrote an article. It's been a couple of weeks called Writing an Effective Resume. And it talks about that, where you can actually look at the job description because you want to echo that job description where it makes sense. So if that job description is saying that they're looking for someone to do stem cell therapy for a hemo-oncology project for blah, 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 there's your keywords. If you've got heme-oncology and you've got stem cell or you've got phase one or you've got whatever it is that they have in their job description, make sure it's in your resume. And that doesn't mean you need to tailor your resume every blooming time you apply. But that way you're not sending out 100 resumes and hoping that the darts that you're throwing at the wall are going to stick. You're sending out 10 and they're matched. Now, I'm not saying copy the job description and put it in your resume. It needs to be you, but you can see the keywords in the resume on what they're looking for. And it really does have to do with the tasks within the job description. Are you managing the data team? Are you helping to establish clinical monitoring plans? Are you doing whatever, where in this therapeutic? Echo it if you have the experience in your resume. And those keywords, the scanning systems will pick you right up. Because that's the goal, is you want a human eye to look at it, and it's going to go through a scanning system first. And if it doesn't have those keywords, it doesn't mean you're not going to be found. We actually just posted a podcast about this last week. Doesn't mean you're not going to be found. It just means that you're going to come after the other ones that do have it in there,
Yeah.
and those are probably going to be ones to fill the position.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'll also add to her question about the app. Job Scan is one that you use. So they'll allow you to take the resume and put in the job description, and then they'll compare.
What is it? Isn't there a chat GTP or chat?
Chat
Yeah.
Chat GTP is another one
Mhm.
that but I find that because I've been playing around with Chat GTP, and you really have to what you put in has to be good. Going back to what you said, you put in garbage, you get out garbage.
Yeah.
Quality of what you put in has to be really on point for Chat GTP to spit you out something that is also good. But if you're starting off and putting something crappy in there, that's what you'll get. But that Chat GTP is another way too.
Mhm.
You can also just put in the job description in Chat GTP and ask it to tell you what the keywords are, and it'll do that. But again, you have to ask it in a certain way. So maybe that's another topic is prompts that you
Mhm.
put in Chat GTP to get something
Mhm.
useful.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. And then so Mars says, how far back should a CV go? As a contractor with 25 years, it would take too many pages.
I agree. I mean, I think it's a big, well, as a contractor, it depends on how you format your resume as well with 25 years. You know, we do like it whenever contractors list their clients because we've seen a lot of people who have an LLC, but they haven't had a live contract in years. So we do like to see your clients listed, but it can just be a list with dates, and then you can format it. Again, if you're aligning yourself with a really good recruiting company, they're going to be able to help you with this. But if you've been a contractor for the last 25 years, you can list independent clinical research consultant, clinical research associate / clinical project manager, whatever clients include, and then just list the clients. And then underneath, describe what you did and the therapeutics you worked and that type of thing. Whenever you have that kind of tenure, there a lot of times the industry will give you a little bit of a buy. Now, the only other caveat that I would say is we like to see classical training. So whenever we're looking at CVs that only have contracting, it doesn't mean that we won't talk to you at all, but we're going to ask you where you got your clinical training, your classical training. Did you get it from a PPD or a GSK, or did you get it from your brother Bubba? I mean, it's important to us to understand where you got classically trained. So make sure that's somewhere on your resume. Classically trained at PPD and did this
But
very
if she's
course or
been
whatever.
a contractor that long, you've been in the industry longer than me, but I feel like back in the day, they didn't have like official training, right? They just kind of like, they were pulling people left and right? From the gas station. And
But
then
most people started as a perm somewhere. Most people did. Not everybody.
well, yeah, they did, but they didn't have like the official training programs back then.
Right, 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 right. But you still have the OTJ, the on the job training from somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
you're
So,
right. You're right.
yeah.
So
So,
if you
because if
have
you're
on
in
the
the
job training, then you just wanted them, they would basically just explain the on the job training then.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because if you're a consultant, you're not supposed to be trained. That's the concept of being a consultant is that you already are trained.
Yeah, no training, none at all. You can go.
Yeah. So you've got to explain where you got your classical training. So it's independent consultant and your classical training, and that's all you got to include. It's like a 1-2 page. Now I don't have a problem with 5-6 page resumes. I mean, I'm not one of those 1 page resume rules. Matter of fact, I tell you guys it's a myth. Don't buy into it, right? But but you still want to show, and you can still show, hey, I worked for Johnson and Johnson and GSK, and I did a stint with this company and that company, and it shows your credibility, which is important, but don't leave off your classical training.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Do you recommend putting the protocol titles? I see
I
that.
don't.
I don't
I
have
mean,
it on mine, but I see it on some people's.
I see it on people's too, and I never look at them. Now, with that being said, it might pick up in the scanning systems if you've got like this list, because I know some people send us this Excel list of all of their studies, and it's not part of their CV, so it's not going to pull up if they have macular degeneration or wet, dry, whatever. It's not going to really show that. So you definitely want to have a list of your therapeutics and where possible your indication, but listing the studies to me doesn't mean anything.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
'Cause I'll see that, and then if you've been on a lot, that in and of itself might take up 10 pages.
Mhm.
And then the CVs with the PIs, I've seen like one was like 50 something pages.
I represented a VP once that had a 72-page
Oh
CV.
my gosh.
He had patents and he had all these publications, and I broke it out. His regular CV was 12, and then I did supplements. We got him the job, But oh my gosh, who's going to look at that? I'm not going to
I
look
was
at
just about to say,
that.
you actually go through the 72 pages?
Well, that I did just to break it out and format it so I could do
Oh,
my
God,
job.
you went through it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't read it. I just like compartmentalized it so that
Oh,
I
okay, okay.
could.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. And I will tell you, you guys, no one's going to read that. No one's going to read it. No one's going to read it.
No,
I mean, the
nobody's
scanning
trying to.
system might see it, but no one's going to read that.
And going back to what you said about the 7 seconds, if it's 7 seconds that they're going to like quickly scan and decide if they're going to call you or not, like nobody's reading 72. They're just 50, 20 page, 15 pages I don't want to read.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what else? Oh, how far back should a CV go? So we're in 2023. Is your work history from 1998 relevant? Should you put that on there?
Maybe. I mean, it kind of depends. Ageism is real, though, folks. Sorry. I mean, and I just published that article last week as well because we're redoing our whole resume series. But I'm sorry to say that ageism is real. You got to be careful. So there are instances to where if you look old with your resume because you graduated from college in 60 something, you're probably going to want to reformat that, right? So there are things. Now, if you were a coordinator to begin with, or a nurse and then a coordinator, and then you moved into monitoring and you've monitored for 30 years, maybe you want to just put that in your professional summary. I mean, there are definitely ways to get around it, but you do need to be careful. You need to show a solid story. You don't want to pull anything off your resume that's going to detract from the story that you're trying to tell. But if you can avoid looking like you've been in the industry to where you're like 60, 70 years old and you're still in the industry, you should avoid that. Because even though I have a lot of respect for a lot of my clients, even though I would never admit that any of them consciously practice ageism, people unconsciously practice
Yeah.
ageism.
I think people
Mhm.
forget about that too. There's a lot of unconscious bias.
Mhm.
We don't do it on purpose.
Yep.
But your recommendations is what I always recommend too to avoid that ageism.
Hmm.
And then Mar also said, not really. Big Pharma had training programs. She started at Parkcell and GSK.
Yeah.
That's funny. Um, well, I think I got through everybody's question. It took us 2 hours. But no, this was great, right? We went through a lot. I hope everybody got the point of that. This whole job search process is not about you.
Or at least not just about you. You got to marry the two, right?
But I really stick firmly to the fact that it's not about you at all.
Mhm.
Like, yes, we're talking about your skills, your experience, your education, all that stuff. But how are they helpful, beneficial to the company? That's why I say
Agree.
it's not about you.
Agree. Absolutely agree. Mhm.
So we're gonna wrap this one up. I think we've been on long enough, right? And we're back again next week for everybody that does not know. And next week, do you remember the topic for next week?
Let me look real quick. I think it might have been the blocker one. I'm excited about that one. It is. It's the blocker one.
Okay.
Well, people probably look at that and go, what the heck? It's a great topic, though, because we all have self defeating habit patterns that are keeping us from being our best.
Absolutely.
So we're
And
going to
that
talk about.
I find that that's most people's problem. It's not their resume or their LinkedIn profile or their interviewing skills. It's the blockers.
Yeah, how do you get out of your own way so that you can be successful?
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's all of our problems, right? With anything
Mhm.
we're trying to do in life, most of the time. So that's gonna be
Yeah.
a great one.
And it's your interviewer's problem. It's your recruiter's problem too. So you
Exactly.
gotta be able to see it and navigate it, not just in yourself, but in everybody else.
Everybody else, and
Mhm.
then not just in the job that you're trying to get, but your current role.
Yeah,
Think about blockers that your manager may have or some of
yeah,
your coworkers.
agreed. Yeah,
So keeping all that in mind, and when we keep that in the forefront and not take things personal, everything gets so much
it
easier.
does, and it raises your energy to the point to where you're matching energy with higher level individuals rather than the petty, crappy people that you don't really want to deal with anyway.
Thank you. You said it, not me. All righty, everybody. Well, we're gonna wrap up today. Thank you so much, Angela, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
It was. And we're like I said, we're gonna be back on next week, guys. So don't worry. Angela will be back. We're going to be talking about blockers. So I'm excited. And Angela, you have a wonderful night. Thank
Thank you, sweetheart. You too. And thanks to all of you guys who participated. Appreciate it.
you. Absolutely. All right. Well, everybody, we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Thanks.